Glad you could join us for our 7:30 news bulletin. You're with me, Tandy Wenzumara. Let's take a look at our top stories before we begin. Vatican announces funeral program for Cardinal George Pell set for Saturday in St. Peter's Square. Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace moves to raise awareness on rights of persons with albinism in Malacca district. HRCC tells President Jawara to immediately act on the findings by the Commission of Inquiry. And in international news, Ghana increases salaries by 30% amid economic woes. We do have the details to these stories and more. Do stay with us. The Vatican has announced that a funeral mass for the late Australian Cardinal George Pell, who died suddenly on Tuesday, will be celebrated Saturday in St. Peter's Square. Cardinal Pell was ordained a priest in St. Peter's in 1966 by Armenian Cardinal Gregorio Pietro Aghianian, one of the protagonists of the Second Vatican Council from 1962 to 1965. He died late Tuesday due to complications following a routine hip surgery at Rome's Salvatore Mundi Hospital at the age of 81. We have more details on this Cruise Now report read by Bernard Manza.
His death comes on the heels of the passing of Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI, who died on December 31st, 2002, and whose January 5th funeral Cardinal Pell had attended. The Vatican announcement confirmed that the Mass will be celebrated by the Dean of the College of Cardinals, Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re, with Pope Francis coming in at the end to offer the final benediction and commendation for the deceased. After his Rome funeral, Cardinal Pell's body will be flown back to Australia, where it will be buried in St. Mary's Cathedral in Sydney, where he served as Archbishop for 13 years, before moving to the Vatican in 2014 as head of the Secretariat for the Economy. Long one of the Catholic Church's most influential prelates, Pell played an outsized role in both local ecclesial affairs in Australia, having been a leader of the Australian Church's conservative bloc, and in the Vatican. A priest from the remote Diocese of Barat, Pell was appointed as Auxiliary Bishop for Melbourne in 1987 and as Archbishop in 1996. He was also appointed as a member of several Vatican departments, was named Archbishop of Sydney in 2001, and was made a cardinal by Pope John Paul II in 2003. In 2013, he was appointed to Pope Francis' Council of Cardinal Advisors, and in 2014 was brought to the Vatican to lead the Pope's financial reforms as head of the Secretariat for the Economy. In a telegram following the Cardinal's death, Pope Francis remembered him as a faithful servant who, without faltering, followed his Lord without perseverance, even in the hour of trial.
The Luntha Diocese, through the Catholic Development Commission in Malawi, CADICOM, yesterday donated 60 bags of maize and 9 cartons of 1-liter cooking oil, each carton comprising 12 bottles, to Maula prison. In an interview, the Director of Social Services and Development in the Diocese, Monsignor Dr. Patrick Tawale, said their gesture follows what Pope Francis told the Catholic Church to put at heart the poor and those in need, including those in prison. He further asked Christians and all well-wishers to follow suit and the teachings of Jesus Christ by showing love to fellow brothers and sisters who are in prisons. Here is part of what he said.
This is in conformity with what the Pope advised us to do, to be in solidarity with the poor. And we know prisoners have a lot of challenges as prisoners, especially when it comes to food and other items. But also even Jesus Christ, in advising his followers, spoke of being in solidarity with the poor, with the prisoners. As Christians, we thought the best way to do it is to do it in action. That's why we are here today.
On his part, Maula Prison Station Officer Senior Superintendent Peter Galao held CARICOM for the timely donation, saying it will ease food shortages. The officer further said it is of great importance for the general public to support the efforts of the Malawi government of making sure that the country's prisons are fumitory centers and not dumping sites. Here is what he had to say.
The donation will really benefit the intended population of our inmates, and the 60 bags which has been donated to us is so vital and will solve different problems, because in some cases we really have a shortage of food, but the government is really trying its best to support us in terms of supplying us with food items, but at the same time, the general public has to support the government, has to complement the efforts by the government to give us such donations of food items, and we really appreciate for their donation.
The Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace, CCJP, in Mangochi Diocese has embarked on a 5-month activity aimed at capacitating community development committees on the rights of women, children and girls with albinism in Malaga and Mangochi districts. The activity is meant to help people understand the rights of these groups, as there seems to be gaps that are overlooked. According to Gender Officer for Mangochi Diocese, CCJP, Gaciano Nicolas, women, girls and children with albinism are more vulnerable, and their awareness will equip them with knowledge on their rights. The Public Accounts Committee Park of Parliament on Friday sent back officials from the Malawi National Examinations Board (MANEP) for submitting incomplete responses on audit queries that border around unprocedural procurements and misuse of funds at the examination institution. PAC chairperson Mark Bottleman said in an interview after the incident that the Auditor General did not verify some queries that were submitted to the committee. The committee has since directed MANEP to report back to Parliament before the start of its next sitting. Here is part of what Bottleman had to say.
Well, we have sent the controlling officer for MANEP and her team back because we realize that there are certain processes they have not finalized with the Auditor General. You know, as a matter of procedure, on each and every query has to be verified, properly verified by the Auditor General. And the Auditor General is supposed to issue a certificate to certify that those queries have been verified, properly verified by the Auditor General, and they have been found to be cleared. But what we found out, even before we got into the substantive questions, that the queries had not been verified by the Auditor General. So we have sent them back because we want them to go back to the Auditor General to find out which areas they need to address before they come back to us. And we have challenged them that they need to come back to us before the 17th of February. As you know that we are opening the next plenary on the 17th of February. So we would like to have this issue exhausted before that time because we want it to be part and parcel of our report, which we will compile in order for us to report to the National Assembly.
If you just tuned into Luntha TV, know that you're watching news coming to you live from Bishop Navy Media Center. But before we proceed, let's take another look at the headlines. Vatican announces funeral program for Cardinal George Pell set for Saturday in St. Peter's Square. Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace moves to raise awareness on rights of persons with albinism in Malaga district. HRCC tells President Jawara to immediately act on the findings by the Commission of Inquiry. And in international news, Ghana increases salaries by 30% amid economic woes. Proceeding with the news, the Human Rights Consultative Committee, HRCC, has asked President Lazarus Chakwera to act on the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry, which looked into the arrest of the Anti-Corruption Bureau ACB Director General Martha Chizuma. HRCC Board Chairperson Robert Mkwezalamba has urged Chakwera to prove to Malawians that he is different from other previous presidents who never acted on the findings of commissions of inquiry. He was speaking early today in Lilongwe during a press briefing which focused on the findings of the Commission of Inquiry and analysis by HRCC. Brendan Wanza was there and he reports.
According to the Human Rights Consultative Committee, HRCC, all the issues surrounding Chizuma are emanating from the leaked audio in which she was talking to a third party on matters pertaining to the fight against corruption. Mkwezalamba said there is a need for President Lazarus Chakwera to quickly order the arrest of the person who recorded Chizuma on the purported call so that the issue should be exhausted through the court to avoid future implications. He further hinted that the fight against corruption will not be an easy task if the two offices, namely ACB and Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, are still living in bad terms, which the Commission also recommended for further action, and that Chakwera should act accordingly.
We have demanded that she needs to be disciplined in accordance with the law. You have the Public Appointments Committee, you have the Public Civil Service Commission. There are all those institutions that are designated to someone, and then undertake a due process. So our emphasis is on the due process. It includes Kayuni himself. We are told he was already suspended, but it can't end up being suspended. There has to be investigation and somebody has to be held.
Meanwhile, the committee has hinted that it fully endorses the findings of the Commission, saying it achieved its goals in as far as its mandate was concerned. Last week, another group of civil society organizations came open to endorse the report and asked all relevant stakeholders to act on the recommendations. President Lazarus Chakwera instituted a commission of inquiry in December last year to look into the circumstances that led to the arrest of ACB boss Martha Chizuma early December. However, majority of the population through different platforms have expressed that the Commission missed its target as it largely focused on the conduct of Ms. Chizuma. It is yet unknown as to when the President will act on the recommendations by the Commission amid such growing critics on the findings. For Luntha News in Lilongwe, I am Brendan Mwanza.
As the fight against cholera outbreak continues in Balaga, United Purpose Organization has donated 11 boxes of washing tablets to the district to help with sanitation issues. Despite focusing on agricultural innovations in the district, the organization says it sought wise to help some of their beneficiaries have been affected. Currently, the district has registered over 600 cases with 14 deaths since March 2022. Rashida Matandika has more details.
There are 648 cholera cases that have now been registered in Balaga district with 14 deaths, and the fight continues, but lack of resources is handicapping the hospital from rendering its services efficiently. Some of the challenges include fuel shortages, gumboots, aprons, and soap, just to mention a few. In response to the outcry for help, United Purpose has donated 11 cartons of washing tablets containing 264 tablets and 4,800 aqua tubs for chlorination of water. Speaking after handover, project manager for United Purpose in Balaga, Ruben Kainga, said they believe in supporting their partners when they are in need, and the DHO is one of them. He said despite that they are into agriculture, their support is meant to support their beneficiaries who are directly or indirectly affected by the outbreak, and it is also part of the WASH interventions.
As a precautionary measure to contain the situation, we have to embark on personal hygiene. So soap is a key factor in the promotion of hygiene and sanitation. We are going to use these soap tablets in the emergency treatment units or cholera treatment centers for hand washing. And also we are going to distribute the soap tablets to the community for hand washing promotion. The aqua tubs are very important in the prevention of cholera cases. We are going to share the aqua tubs to all affected areas, more especially to our health surveillance assistants, to be distributed to the affected communities.
The district's prevention health officer, Blessings Chitsime, said they are going to use the soap in the cholera wards.
Yes, we are implementing projects that are focusing on agriculture, but then as an organization we also have a section which deals with water and sanitation, and that department also deals with health-related issues. So this support, I should also mention that it has been made possible with funding from UNICEF. So it's UNICEF which funded that section, and they also saw it good to give it to us in Balaka so that we support the district hospital.
Meanwhile, the hospital is continuing to call for help to contain the outbreak. Rashida Matandika, Luntha TV, Balaka.
In sports, as local football clubs in the country are busy tuning up their squads in preparation for the new season, the issue of transfers has once again come up with some controversies. Yesterday, Silver Strikers announced the signing of Bullet striker Hassan Kajoke, a development which made his parent club to come up with a complaint to the Football Association of Malawi FAM, while Wanderers announced that they have parted ways with their star winger, Yamigani Chester. King Major Kamwindo has more of the details.
It is still not known where some players will end up playing following the announcements that have been made by various football clubs in the country. Yamigani Chester is one of the players that people are much eager to know where he will play his strengths next season following his release by mighty Mukulu Wanderers. It is reported that the two parties could not agree on the signing on fee of a winger to renew his commitment with the Lal Ruban side. The development is also coming as Wanderers former defenders Francis Sumlimbika and Bongani Kahipa have taken the club to the Industrial Relations Court to seek compensation for unlawful termination of their contracts. The two players, through their lawyers, want a total of 44,280,000 kwacha in damages according to the court documents. The transfer wrangle took a huge twist yesterday as Silver Strikers announced the signing of 4 players, namely Hassan Kajoke, Emmanuel Kaunga, Chinachirwa, and Gift Chunga. The name of Kajoke supplies his parent club Nyasa Big Players, who later lodged a complaint to Football Association of Malawi FAM saying Silver did not follow proper procedures in signing a player who had a running contract with the club. The 2020-2021 Super League Golden Boot winner was offered a contract extension at Bullets, but he refused, arguing that what was offered was too little as compared to what the central bankers were offering. Meanwhile, today the People's Team has released attacker Mishek Selemani after mutual agreement to terminate his contract that was coming to an end in the month of March. Another issue giving Bullets headache right now is of star midfielder Jimmy Idana, who is reportedly demanding 80 million kwacha signing on fee for him to renew his contract by a year. Idana is also being linked with a move to Bullets rivals Mighty Wanderers and Silver Strikers. The Football Association of Malawi FAM opened the transfer window on 1st of January to allow teams beef up for their squads. For Luntha News in Lilongwe, I am King Major Kamwindo.
Now, in international news, Ghana's government and trade unions have agreed to increase all public servants' salaries by 30% for 2023 as the country struggles to reduce debt and tackle rampant inflation. Trade unions representing public service employees started negotiating salary rises with the government in November, a few months after hardships spurred street protests that pushed the government to seek help from the International Monetary Fund, IMF. The two parties on Thursday settled on a 30% increase to base pay across the board effective from 1st January 2023. The West African gold, oil and cocoa producer, once described as Africa's shining star by the World Bank, is battling its worst economic crisis in a generation, with inflation hovering at a record 50.3%, the highest in 21 years. The local cedi dropped heavily against the US dollar last year as government spending cuts and central bank interest rate hikes failed to tame inflation, which rose to a new high of 54% last month. And that also brings us to the end of what we had for you in this edition of our news bulletin. But before we leave, a reminder of our top stories. Vatican announces funeral program for Cardinal George Pell set for Saturday in St. Peter's Square. Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace moves to raise awareness on rights of persons with albinism in Balaka district. HRCC tells President Jawara to immediately act on the findings by the Commission of Inquiry. And in international news, Ghana increases salaries by 30% amid economic woes. You've been with me, Tandy Wemzumara. Thank you so much for keeping me company, and do continue following the rest of our programs right here on Luntha TV. Have a lovely weekend and do stay safe.